For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. A pre-dawn airstrike killed Hamas's leader Ismail Haniyeh during a visit to the Iranian capital Tehran early today. According to Iran and Hamas, they blame Israel. Israel has not claimed responsibility. It comes after Haniyeh attended the inauguration of Iran's new president in Tehran, and hours after an Israeli strike in Lebanon's capital Beirut, which targeted a top Hezbollah commander, though Hezbollah has not confirmed the death. The actions escalate the tensions and fears of an all-out regional war, Iran's supreme leaders vowing revenge against Israel. Israel has vowed to kill Haniyeh and other Hamas leaders for the group's October 7th attack that sparked the war in Gaza. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken stressed the importance of a ceasefire in the Gaza war and de-escalating tensions.
We've been working from day one not only to try to get to a better place in Gaza, but also to prevent the conflict from spreading, whether it's in the north with Lebanon and Hezbollah, whether it's the Red Sea with the Houthis, whether it's Iran, Syria, Iraq, you name it. And a big key to trying to make sure that that doesn't happen and that we can move to a better place is getting the ceasefire.
Arab leaders have condemned the assassination. Egypt says the killing of Haniyeh and lack of progress in ceasefire talks is complicating the situation. Qatar said it could jeopardize ceasefire talks. Turkey said the strikes indicate Israel does not want peace. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke to reporters today and said while he had no information to give about Haniyeh's death, the U.S. would defend Israel if it's attacked, just as it did earlier this year. The United Nations Human Rights Office released a report today accusing Israel of torturing Palestinians taken from Gaza and put in secret locations in Israel and the West Bank. It says thousands were forcibly removed from Gaza, including children, women, patients, healthcare providers, journalists, and human rights defenders. Jeremy Lawrence is the UN Human Rights spokesperson.
Detainees say they have been held in cage-like facilities, stripped naked for prolonged periods, wearing only diapers. They tell of prolonged blindfolding, deprivation of food, sleep and water, and being subjected to electric shocks and being burnt with cigarettes. Some detainees say dogs were released on them, and others say they were subjected to waterboarding or that their hands were tied and they were suspended from the ceiling. Some women and men also spoke of sexual and gender-based violence.
The report said Israel's prison service held more than 9,000 of these security detainees as of the end of June. It also accuses the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank of arbitrary detention and torture to suppress criticism and political opposition. Protests continue in Venezuela after socialist President Nicolas Maduro won a third term in office. A group with election observers in Venezuela, the Carter Center, said it was unable to verify results of the presidential election and blamed authorities for a, quote, complete lack of transparency, unquote, in declaring Maduro the winner. The statement by the Atlanta-based group comes as Venezuelan government leaders have ratcheted up attacks on opponents, calling for the arrest of opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez. The center-right opposition says it has proof they won by a landslide. The National Lawyers Guild said its election observers saw a fair and transparent election. Vice President Kamala Harris campaigned for president in Atlanta, Georgia, the swing state, last night, and she sought to set the record straight on immigration, a Republican election year talking point, accusing the Biden administration of a border crisis. Harris hit back last night, recalling her role as California's Attorney General, a border state. She compared her positions to Donald Trump's recent efforts to derail a border security bill.
Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been talking a big game about securing our border, but he does not walk the walk. He tanked the bipartisan deal because he thought it would help him win an election. Which goes to show Donald Trump does not care about border security. He only cares about himself.
Harris vowed to help revive that legislative package, to see it through Congress and sign it if she beats Trump in November. She said as California Attorney General, she prosecuted cartels and won. A federal investigation has found at least 973 Native American children died in the U.S. government's abusive boarding school system over a 150-year period. Boarding schools were meant to erase the culture and language of Native children, often by forbidding the speaking of their native languages and Native cultural practices. Interior Department officials released the findings Tuesday and called on the government to apologize for the schools. Officials say the deaths were caused by sickness, accidents, and abuse. Interior Secretary Deb Haaland said the schools isolated thousands of children from their families and denied them their identities as Native Americans. The Senate overwhelmingly passed a first law aimed at protecting children online since 1998. On a bipartisan vote of 91-3, they approved measures aimed at protecting children and teens' online privacy and to protect children from threats like cyberbullying, suicide, and eating disorders. And San Francisco has become the first city in the nation to ban rent-fixing algorithms. Yoon Chen reports.
San Francisco Board of Supervisors President Aaron Peskin introduced the legislation earlier this month. He said large property owners in the city use the technology to increase revenue, which he says hurts renters.
On one side is RealPage, a company whose business model is to combine non-public competitor data and give landlords an edge over the market.
Peskin says similar bills have been introduced in several states, including California, Colorado, and New York. He says RealPage, a third-party revenue management company, is facing lawsuits and investigations from the Department of Justice over rent fixing and other agencies.
There are 30 class action lawsuits, three state attorneys general, the Department of Justice, and the FBI. To me, it doesn't really matter the extent of RealPage's dominance of the rental revenue management market. Antitrust experts have been clear. The key problem is the ability for this software to combine competitor data in order to recommend rental or occupancy terms. I'm pursuing a deeper analysis of the impact of this technology, but curbing it now is an imperative.
I'm Yoon Chen.
I'm Christina Onnested, reporting for Pacifica Radio.